We recommend listening to the CW Pod with a glass of Steeple Ridge Bourbon. Grown, distilled, well-rested, and bottled in Erling, Iowa. Now from the Channel Seed Studios, this is the CW Pod, fueled by Steeple Ridge.
What up, CW Pod? We are presented by Steeple Ridge Bourbon at the lovely Lonely Oak Distillery in Erling, Iowa. Hawkeye fans, Friday night game. It's good whiskey drinking season, ain't it? Cyclone fans, you have a bye week. We all have a reason to celebrate and buy a bottle of Steeple Ridge. Look at that beautiful picture right there that Aiden's got up on the screen. We're talking college football today here on the CW Pod. I have a handful of stories I want to get to and analyze in depth. We'll get to Brian Kelly and his beef with a reporter. Talked about this on Two Guys Monday, but I want to go a little more in depth with my thoughts and opinions on it because I think I'm very interested in the coach reporter / fan dynamic. It's a huge part of this sport, and we'll break that down. Do a conference realignment thing, and then I'm going to give you my Big 12 power ratings at Iowa State's bye week, the top 10. And this was a really difficult exercise to do. Like really difficult, and I'm still not 100% confident in the way that I rolled this thing out. So we'll get to that. All on today's CW Pod. Of course, we're in the Channel Seed Studios. My brother-in-law down in Southwest Iowa was getting the combine out on Sunday. That time of year, baby. Let's roll. What about Farm Wyatt Farms? What's the yield potential, Aiden?
It's always great at Wyatt and Sons Farms, I'd tell you that much.
Wow.
As Forrest Gump said, that's all I have to say about that.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for your contributions. So I noted this on Sunday when Deshaun Foster was fired at UCLA in less than 2 seasons. And it's not always a bad thing. Like I think schools oftentimes now will get just crushed for not giving a guy patience or whatever. Sometimes within an athletic department, you just know. Like I've seen this with like assistant coaches where it's just like you can tell in the first 2 months this was a bad hire. This guy doesn't fit our culture. And if that's what UCLA saw with Deshaun Foster, then maybe it's better just to rip the Band-Aid off immediately instead of, prolonging it and letting him keep recruiting for you. Listen, this is not going to work. We can see it. I mean, this guy's had a bunch of mishaps. They look terrible. I don't know. I'm not judging the fire. I don't know. But what I will say is when you draw up the hierarchy of Big Ten jobs in 2025, which is still weird to say, UCLA is absolutely one of the worst. The amount of fan support, we heard this during the last round of realignment so much about, well, the Stanford fans, they're passionate, but there's beaches and there's not that level of they had a really hard time at UCLA and a bunch of these Pac-12 schools. They had a really hard time drawing fans when their school was actually playing other West Coast schools that their fans actually cared about. How in the hell is UCLA going to, because this ain't USC and they have a hard time drawing too when they're not good. But how is UCLA going to draw now in the Big Ten? I hope the money's worth it. We just see time and time again when we look back at moves made in conference realignment that were specifically for the money, that maybe financially you're better off, but you're not winning more. You can't keep coaches. Your fans are unhappy. Was it worth it? And again, I look at UCLA, proud basketball school, really difficult setup there because the Rose Bowl is so far off of campus. I understand all these things because they'll give you all the excuses. These Pac-12 people will. They are loaded with the excuses as to why their league failed. But they had a hard time in the Pac-12 getting people to care about football. You ain't going to do it with Rutgers and like Iowa and not a shot at that. Like they don't care. Like there's no history there. It's not exciting for a UCLA, like a random casual UCLA fan that Indiana is coming to town. Oh, they were in the playoff last year. So this is a really hard job. This job was hard in the Pac-12. If I'm stacking this thing up, like convince me that this job isn't much worse than like Purdue. Honestly, convince me of that. I understand. Oh yeah, you've got the LA market. Well, so do the Lakers, so do the Clippers, 2 NFL teams. Oh, and you're second fiddle to USC. This job sucks. That job sucks. Chip Kelly couldn't win there. Why do you think he left to become a coordinator somewhere else? Because the writing was on the wall. Now you got to travel all the time, being in the Big Ten. This job was bad. Now it downright sucks. So again, like if this Deshaun Foster thing's not working, okay, rip the Band-Aid off. There's no point in prolonging it. Get to work, whatever. I'm just saying, when I look at that in the hierarchy of the Big Ten, I think it's one of the worst jobs in the league. Speaking of conference realignment, Hassel and I got a really bad habit right now where we start live betting these late night games. We're like, do you think they'll cover the 37.5? And we just keep betting them, and it's like a double or nothing thing, and our friend Cooper's involved, and it's just chaos. Well, and then Hassel, he's on his like 4th cigar of the night. I'm lying there in my 6-year-old's bed because she needs me to sleep, watching these games on my computer. It's just a terrible, terrible, terrible habit that we've gotten into this college football season. But I'm watching Stanford Boston College late Saturday night, and I didn't even realize it was an ACC game. I swear to God, did not realize I was watching a conference game. And then it was like, oh. But that's just how jacked up this all is. Like, there's really a void right now. Can we all agree? I think there's a void not having the Pac-12. I understand why everything happened the way that it did. But, like, Stanford's not, like, this isn't a good thing. Boston College wanted to play in that game. I don't know. The UCLA firing its coach thing got my head spinning with all of this Pac-12 stuff. Like, look at Iowa's opponent on Friday night, Rutgers. I think, Greg Schiano being back has certainly helped. But do you remember, and a lot of our audience is younger, but back in the like middle of the 2000s, when Rutgers was like going undefeated in the Big East, when the Big East was still a BCS conference. Do you remember those like Thursday night games where Rutgers would have sellouts, the passion, like they really cared about football there? And again, I feel like Schiano's bringing it back a little bit. But other than the obvious, which is, well, if this turns into a super league, we have our spot. Well, I don't know if he will, for one. I see flaws in that. I think that they'd probably kick you out. But other than that, has this really benefited Rutgers at all, other than the bottom line? More black on the financial report than red. Like, are Rutgers fans, ask a Rutgers fan, do you enjoy being a fan of your college football program more now than you did 15 years ago? My guess would be that most of them, if they're being honest, would say no. But somehow, over the last 20 years, the suits in college athletics have convinced us that television revenue is the most important thing. Yeah, we used to go 10-2, and we had a full stadium. There was passion for our games. We knew all of our opponents. We had rivalries. But now we're really happy when we go 4-8, our stadium's half full, but we make a lot of television revenue. Yeah, our league makes more in media rights than yours does. Ooh. Like they have completely brainwashed all of us. There's few things I love more than going on to the like message boards and you see the idiots on Twitter and they're fighting about television revenue. Now it's a big deal and I'm not minimizing, especially in the pay for play era that we're in and leaning into. Okay. But you only have, I don't even know how many teams are in the Big Ten. 18? Like not everybody can be good. So just because you have television revenue and you can pay it doesn't mean anything. So again, well, yeah, sure, great. Your quality control analyst for the special teams is making a really good living. He's getting paid a lot of money. I hope that your parking is cheaper. I hope when you buy a hot dog at the stadium that they've lowered the price on that because of all the media rights revenue dollars coming in. Pfft, none of that's happening. They brainwashed you. So again, like it got me to thinking, watching that quote unquote ACC game, the firing of Deshaun Foster, about there are instances where I think a team is happier now after realignment. But there are a lot of them. Like Maryland was a much better fit in the ACC. You cannot convince me that it was the right thing for Maryland to do to go to the Big Ten other than just the sheer financial aspect of it. That was a bad move. And then you have a program like Nebraska would be an interesting case study. They haven't been as successful, but one could argue they had lost that success right after, the Frank Solich national championship game against Miami where they got blown out. Like that was starting to dwindle out in the Big 10 or in the Big 12 as well. And then, and like most of the Big 12 schools now, it's not because they were like wanted, other than the 4 that came from the American and BYU, the 3 that came from the American and BYU, but it's more of like nobody else wants us, so we're all here together. Let's just hold hands and be a family. So that's kind of how that conference has come together. The SEC, I think, has been more strategic when it adds teams. The Big Ten was just more ruthless about adding television eyeballs and all that crap. It's not always better. And nobody, I have a lot of sympathy for, I really do. I have sympathy for athletic directors who are like young in the business now, who are cleaning up the mess. And they're under, serious financial stress. So you have to make every dollar you possibly can. But there are a lot of moves that were made out of pure greed and nothing more. And now we look around at our sport and we're like, what the hell are we doing? Stanford, Boston College playing at midnight on a Saturday for an ACC game? What in the world are we doing? That's a bad job, that UCLA job. Convince me otherwise. I would love to hear your argument that that's not one of the worst Power 4 jobs in the country right now. I think it absolutely is. I want to thank our friends over at Nostalgia. My friends at Barntown make this, and I am so glad that I get to endorse it. I've told the story before. I'll tell it again. I was sitting at a bar in downtown Des Moines, and I was like, oh my God, you have a cotton candy drink? Because I am a sucker for the flavor cotton candy. I had this THC seltzer from Barntown, Nostalgia is the brand, and I texted my friends, and I said, I just had the greatest drink I have ever had in my life. Give it a shot. The caramel apple one is really good, too. It's seasonal. I don't know if it's seasonal, actually. I think they may just have it all the time. But it certainly feels seasonal right now when I drink it. It is fantastic. You guys won't be disappointed. Pick up a 4-pack today. All right, 2 other stories I'm going to get to on this week's CW Pod. Just a monologue version today. I want to talk about this Brian Kelly exchange with a reporter and then also get to my Big 12 power ratings as we enter Iowa State's bye week. First of all, let's watch this. This is what happened after LSU beat Florida by 10 on Saturday night as Brian Kelly had this exchange with a reporter.
Brian in the back, I know you love these immediate post-game sessions, but what are you seeing with your offense?
Stop. Really? Is that the first question? We won the game 20-10. Try another question. What do you want me to tell you? I just laid it out for you. We played the game to win the game. We played the game to win the game.
All right. How about third down then? What is going on with third down?
It's one game. Last game, we were great on third down. You're looking at this from the wrong perspective. LSU won the football game. Won the game. I don't know what you want from me. What do you want? You want us to win 70-0 against Florida to keep you happy?
No, I think people want to know why you can't run the ball, quite honestly.
We can run the ball. Did you see the last play of the game? That's all you need. You just need one. There's ridiculous questions. And I'm getting tired of it. That football team just worked their tail off to get an SEC win, and you want to know what's wrong. You know what? You're spoiled. You're spoiled. This team is 17-1 at night. 17-1. Give them some respect. How about that? Give them some respect instead of micro-analyzing every little thing. This is ridiculous. For a group of seasoned reporters, that kind of question is so out of line.
God, inject that into my veins. Can we have like a story like that every week to discuss here on the CW pod? It's perfect. All right, so there's a lot to unpack here. And we did touch on this on Two Guys, but I'm going to go in more in depth here as I have a lot more time. My analysis of this is there's so many layers. First of all, the reporter, in my opinion, if that would have been one of my guys or gals, my advice would have been, you're fair to ask the question, don't do it right off the bat. Because there is a level of, you have a job to do. I understand that, but we're also human beings. So with that, like I don't actually have a problem with Brian Kelly being pissed. Now, we're going to get into that because I think that the punishment of the tongue lashing of this reporter really fit the crime, and that's a different conversation. But listen, we're all kind of playing chess in these post-game press conferences a little bit. And if you want Brian Kelly to, dance with you, like gaslighting him on the first question after an emotional SEC game is probably not the best route to get what you want out of the situation. So I think the reporter, I'm not even going to say he was wrong. I think he was kind of stupid to lead off the press conference with that question. Okay? Brian Kelly is a human being first and an emotional one at that, especially right after a game. So I think he had all the right in the world. If we want to ask a question, then damn it, we better be able to take what comes back. Brian Kelly's very emotional response, I thought, was fine until it became borderline unhinged. So clearly, like, a couple of things here. One, does Kelly have a problem with this guy? Like, is there more that was leading up to this confrontation that we know about? I don't know. But the problem Brian Kelly has, and it's probably had for the last 10 years, is he's just not likable. And I could see him saying, I don't care if you like me or the media likes me or whatever. The problem is, and I tell coaches this all the time, you guys don't have to say anything. You don't. And most of the time they don't. You can go up there and give us 2-word answers. You know who the only coach I've ever seen that really work for? Bill Belichick. Because he's maybe the greatest of all time. It was cute when he did it. If you're not winning all the time, you can't do that. Fans, you are wearing their laundry. You are replaceable in the mind of fans. And I'm sorry, Brian Kelly. Like, you're a Hall of Famer. I mean, you're one of the best head coaches in my career of doing this for over 20 years. He is, like, consistently. The guy wins. Look at what he did at D2, to Central Michigan, to Cincinnati, to his time at Notre Dame, now LSU. He wins. You know who? Ed Orgeron won a national championship at LSU, bro. You think those people are going to, like, yeah, you may be getting a few pats on the back right now because you just won a game. They will forget about you, chomp you up, and spit you out after the next loss. So these coaches often are so powerful, and they're in such a strong protective bubble at these places where they can pretty much do anything and not get criticized. So when they do get criticized, they lose their minds. And there's no worse offender over the years. Maybe I don't know worse. There might be a few out there. But Brian Kelly, there's no benefit of doubt when it comes to him. So again, I don't even blame. I thought that question was, I don't know enough about that situation to know, like, is this guy a troll? Is Brian Kelly, like, just fed up with him in general, and this has been bubbling over for quite some time? What is Brian Kelly's general relationship like with his media? I don't know a lot of that, but my gut probably tells me that Brian Kelly thinks he is treated unfairly during his time at LSU because the expectations are so high. I'm sorry. I'm a South Carolina fan. You guys all know that. Love the Cox. They lost one game over the weekend to Vanderbilt, and you go throughout their media right now, and you would think that they're 0-9. Okay? Like, that's just the way it is in the South, and everything is, times whatever going on in Columbia, South Carolina is times 10 at LSU, because that's what the expectation is. The other aspect of this that I just find fascinating is, Kelly calling, because I don't believe he's calling that reporter spoiled. I think that he's, and again, this is just my opinion. I'm not speaking for any. It feels like he's calling, like, fans that to me, and the media, whatever. But man, it's hard for me to get on board with that type of talk anymore, with the way the fans have funded this thing. Without the fans, you have nothing. Like, whatever Brian Kelly, I'm assuming he's making close to $10 million a year if he's not making 10. Like, without their donations, going to games, paying for parking, paying for food, paying for tickets, watching on television. And part of that, and part of why college football fans at that level are so dedicated, is because they do microanalyze everything. Iowa State's 4-0 right now. And, we're going to spend the next 2 weeks breaking down what's wrong. Because that's what we all just do. That it's not personal towards anybody. Matt Campbell's the best coach in the history of Iowa State University, I think, in any sport. Okay? I really do. I don't know if there's ever been anyone more important at Iowa State University than Matt Campbell from an athletic standpoint. So if we sit there and the wide receivers are dropping a lot of balls. Worried about the kicking situation, right? It's not personal against Matt Campbell. And I think, like, a guy like Kelly, he just comes off as so sensitive and so gruff, where even in a spot like this, where, again, I don't blame him for being upset with how that question was posed and when it was posed. I think if that's the sixth question in this press conference, I don't think that Kelly erupts like that. I don't. I think that if somebody, wow, coach, really heartfelt battle, you had 5 interceptions in the game and still had a good, like, Florida team must be pretty good. There's ways to, like, lean into that. Hey, coach, do you have any concerns at all about your run game? And I'll give this reporter credit. I've criticized him. Kelly puffed his chest and starts yelling at him, and I'm glad the reporter didn't back down. We have too many spineless sports writers in this country. Like, I'm glad that he stood up to him, even though I honestly, until Kelly started getting personal there at the end, Like, I was probably going to end up on Team Kelly here. Now I'm completely indifferent. I think they both kind of acted like idiots. But again, I come to the defense of the fans here more than anything, because usually, like, we exist in these things to report to the fans. And I think that's more important now than ever with the way college football is shaped, where the fans are so integral in funding this entire thing. They've always been integral, but now it's accentuated. And this is why I think, like, in the next 2 years, I don't expect it right now. We're in a transition period, but I would love for these GMs to have to go and speak to the media and tell the fans, hey, we have a $20 million cap. We have a $10 million that we're using for football, whatever it is. We're going to spend $2 million on our starting quarterback. We're going to spend $1 million here. We're going to, I think fans have a right to know how that is being shaped. I don't know if they have a right to know, like, what individual players are making. Good question. Let me think about that. I don't know about that answer. But I think fans deserve a look under the hood. That guy was wrong in the way that he phrased it and when he asked the question. Kelly was fine, and then he just took it too far. And then he just, he started seeing red and became unhinged, started getting personal with the guy. And then it's like fifth grade stuff. CW Pod here. We are presented by our friends at Steeple Ridge Bourbon at the Lonely Oak Distillery. Get yourself a bottle. All right, here we go. My Big 12 power ratings. And these are very difficult to do. And I am fully admitting that you guys can argue with me about these. I'm going to go 1 through 10. I'll start at 1. And this is mainly, I have Iowa State there. I think that Iowa State would be an underdog to Texas Tech or Utah. I know they'll be an underdog on the road at TCU. So I say all that with that caveat. But when you look at what these individual teams have done, even though Kansas State has been a disappointment, Iowa State still is the only 4-0 team in the country. They have the best resume of these teams. So I have them number 1. I would not power rate them like from a point spread standpoint, but I think of what they've done so far, they are the deserving number 1 team. Having said that, I didn't want to cop out here. I would have a 1A, B, and C. Maybe even a D with TCU. I think TCU might belong in that conversation, but I'm going to put Iowa State 1. I have Texas Tech 2, even though Utah would probably argue that they went to UCLA and won, yada, yada, and they went on the road to Wyoming. I think I told you guys on this pod, 5 weeks ago, and I did my win totals. So it's looking good right there because I had Utah and Texas Tech both. I like both of those teams a lot. I still think Texas Tech is the most talented team in the league, and they are just bludgeoning everybody that they play. Obviously, we have a massive game at 11 o'clock on Saturday in Utah. Texas Tech taking on the Utes. I cannot wait for that game. Inject it into my veins right now. Let's go. The Big 12 season really gets underway. But again, 1 through 4 is really difficult, much like the rest of this, okay? So I'm going off a lot of my gut here. I have BYU at 5. They've been a little bit of a surprise to me. They are playing really good football, but you could convince me 5 through 8 that they could all be kind of mix and match. I think Kansas is really good. They blew that lead at Missouri, but I think their quarterback is playing at an incredibly high level. Arizona State with the loss at Mississippi State kind of docked them, but that's not a league loss. And let's be honest, they've got the tools. They've got the coach. They've got both coordinators back. We knew their job was going to be difficult without Cam Scatterbo for the first couple of weeks. You got to learn how to live without that guy. Much like I think Rocco Becht has had to go through at Iowa State without the 2 NFL wide receivers. So can Arizona State kind of push it into another gear in the next couple of weeks? We'll see. But I have demoted them. I think rightfully so. I would put them comfortably behind the top 4. I think they're right there with BYU, Kansas, Arizona State, and I'm giving Baylor a lot of credit too. Now, if you listen to me, I haven't been high on Baylor. When they lost to Auburn, it was really disappointing for the league. But if you watch the game closely, Baylor really let Auburn off the hook. They really let them off the hook. I thought they outplayed them for a vast majority of that game and made some really stupid mistakes in the red zone. Then they go on the road and win at SMU, which is one of the best wins for the league all season. So they belong up there. Arizona and Houston are at 9 and 10 to me. Arizona is much improved, their defense specifically. I am really fascinated by their running back. I think he's an incredible player. This is like his third school in 5 years. I am really weirded out by Fafita, their quarterback, because I can't get a read on if I really like him or just think he's a guy. I do think that this Brennan, this coach, has done a tremendous job from year one to year two of having his program mesh with the stars that they already had. Now, they lost the stud wide receiver. I realize that, but Arizona seems to be playing some actual complimentary football this year. So we'll keep an eye on them. Good win over Kansas State. Again, if Kansas State stinks, then what does that say about Arizona and Iowa State, who played them right down to the wire? I don't know. My gut tells me that Kansas State's still pretty good, but after they lost that game in Ireland, quarterbacks' families getting in a fight in the streets of Dublin, they're off the rails. You know, that's why I don't dock Iowa State much for the Kansas State thing, because I think that Kansas State probably at that point is a little bit different psychologically than they are right now. And I think Willie Fritz at Houston is just one of the best head coaches in the country. I've said this for years when he was at Tulane. He reminds me stylistically a lot of Matt Campbell. Just a lot of substance there. They don't do a lot of like flashy things. It's a football team, but they play really good defense. They upgraded at quarterback. And I had Houston in my preseason power rankings. My preseason poll, I had them 10th, and a lot of people around the Big 12 mocked me. A lot of fans did. And it's looking pretty good right now, but we'll see. You know, but they really handled Colorado well. I don't think Colorado's very good. The Dion thing is actually quite sad right now. I hope that they can kind of bounce back. It's good for the league when Dion is cooking. But I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. I think that they're way down. And it'll be interesting to see what Willie Fritz does as the teeth of their schedule comes up. But that's how I would rank it. But realize it's very fluid. And it's also, now that I'm doing a weekly poll like I do, it's very difficult to judge wins. It's like, well, this team, like Texas Tech is a great example. Like, they've killed everybody. Now, they haven't beaten anybody. They've killed everybody. They have all the style points. And I thought they were going to be really good going into the year. So how do I dock them for just winning, right? Like, I know they don't have the great wins, but they're going to have opportunities starting on Saturday to do so. If they lose, then we'll dock them then. It's difficult. But again, I'll leave Iowa State at 1. I still think they've done enough with the Iowa win, killing South Dakota, and then you know, Arkansas State was a little bit ugly, but it's still a road win. Right, so you have to give them credit for that, even though it wasn't to the extent that we thought it was potentially going to be. All right, that's today's CW Pod. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks to our friends at Steeple Ridge Bourbon. Go buy a bottle. Give a shout out to my guy, Pat Hoffman, on social media when you do. It's the best whiskey. It's so good. Buy a bottle for your friends. Christmas coming up just around. You know it's going to be the holidays in like not that long. Load up, baby. Aiden Wyatt produces the show as always. My name is Chris Williams. We'll be back next week. CW Pod here on Iowa Everywhere.